My parents forced me to lose weight for my sister's wedding, but after my transformation, they couldn't handle my success. The air in the living room felt thick enough to choke on, each tick of the grandfather clock in the corner a hammer blow against the silence. My parents, John and Mary, sat opposite me on the floral sofa, their faces a carefully curated mask of concern. My sister, Amanda, the source of this impromptu family meeting, was perched on the armchair, looking every bit the radiant, soon-to-be bride, except for the slight, impatient tap of her perfectly manicured fingernail against her teacup. This was it. The intervention. Not for any self-destructive habit, but for the space I occupied in the world. "Chloe, honey," my mother began, her voice dripping with the syrupy sweetness she used when she was about to deliver a blow, "we need to talk about the wedding." I just nodded, my throat too tight to form words. I knew what was coming. It had been hinted at for weeks, in little jabs and not-so-subtle comments. "We found a wonderful tailor who can work miracles," or "that color is lovely, but perhaps something more, slimming?" Amanda placed her cup down with a delicate clink. It's my big day, Chloe," she said, her eyes wide and pleading. "All the pictures, the videos, they're forever. I want us to look our best. You understand, don't you?" I did understand. I understood that our best meant her best, and my current form was not on the approved guest list for her perfect wedding album. My father, a man who usually communicated in grunts from behind a newspaper, cleared his throat. "Your mother and I, we're willing to help, of course. We've looked into a few programs. A top-tier nutritionist, a personal trainer, will cover everything." The offer hung in the air, a gilded cage. They weren't asking me, they were telling me. Lose the weight, or you'll be the fat, embarrassing sister lurking in the background of every cherished memory. The shame was a physical thing, hot and prickly, crawling up my neck. I had always been the bigger sister. Amanda was the petite, delicate one, the one who could share clothes with our mother. I was sturdy. Solid. A fact that had been the undercurrent of our family dynamic for as long as I could remember. I was the smart one, the funny one, but Amanda was the pretty one. And in their world, pretty was the only currency that truly mattered. I looked at their expectant faces and felt a familiar wave of resignation wash over me. I wanted to scream, to tell them how much their words cut, how they were reducing my worth to a number on a scale. But all that came out was a whispered, "Okay." Their collective sigh of relief was another blow. They saw my compliance as a victory, not the crushing defeat it felt like. The next day, the regime began. The nutritionist, a severe-looking woman named Diana, handed me a diet plan that looked like it was designed for a hummingbird. Lean protein, leafy greens, and enough water to float a battleship. The personal trainer, a hyper-enthusiastic man named Marco, pushed me through workouts that left every muscle screaming in protest. My life became a monotonous cycle of calorie counting, weigh-ins, and grueling gym sessions. My parents were thrilled, checking in daily for progress reports. "Down another 2 pounds? Wonderful, sweetie," my mother would chirp over the phone. Amanda sent motivational texts, which were usually just pictures of her looking effortlessly thin in a new outfit. They didn't see the exhaustion in my eyes, the constant hunger gnawing at my stomach, or the way I had to fight back tears of frustration when the scale wouldn't budge. They only saw the numbers going down, the physical manifestation of my obedience. But something else was happening, something I didn't expect. Amidst the pain and the hunger, a tiny spark of defiance began to glow. Marco, for all his relentless energy, was the first person who seemed to see me and not just my weight. "You're stronger than you think, Chloe," he'd say, pushing me to lift a heavier weight or hold a plank for 10 seconds longer. "This isn't just about the wedding. This is about you. What do you want?" The question startled me. No one had ever asked me that before. What did I want? I wanted to feel strong. I wanted to feel comfortable in my own skin. I wanted to prove to myself that I could do this, not for them, but for me. The shift was subtle at first. I started focusing on the feeling of my muscles getting stronger, the rush of endorphins after a tough workout, the vibrant taste of the healthy food I was learning to cook. I stopped seeing it as a punishment and started seeing it as a challenge. I began a private journal, not of calories, but of achievements. Running my first full mile without stopping. Doing a real push-up. Fitting into a pair of jeans I hadn't worn in years. These were my victories, secret and sweet. The weight loss became a byproduct of this new mindset, not the sole objective. As the pounds melted away, my reflection began to change. My face became more defined, my collarbones emerged, and I discovered I had a waist. I started experimenting with clothes, discovering a sense of style I never knew I had. For the first time, I walked into a store and didn't head straight for the back racks of shapeless black sacks. I bought a dress that was bright, fitted, and made me feel incredible. The day I wore it to a family dinner was the first sign that something was wrong. I expected praise, exclamations of how wonderful I looked. Instead, a strange tension filled the room. My mother's smile was strained. "Well, look at you," she said, her eyes scanning me from head to toe. "You're certainly visible." Amanda was even more transparent. Her gaze was sharp, a flicker of something I couldn't quite place, annoyance, in her eyes. "That's a bold choice, Chloe," she commented, picking at her salad. "I'm not sure it's really you, Dot. But it was me. The new me." And I was starting to realize they didn't like her very much. The passive-aggressive comments escalated. When I posted a picture of myself hiking, looking happy and healthy, Amanda would comment, "Don't overdo it. You don't want to look gaunt for the wedding." When I mentioned I was joining a running club, my father would frown and say, "You need to be careful, Chloe. Don't get obsessed." It was baffling. This was what they wanted, wasn't it? For me to be thin. But now that I was, and more importantly, now that I was happy about it, it seemed to make them deeply uncomfortable. The first major twist came from an unexpected source. Marco, my trainer, had been documenting my progress on his gym social media page, with my permission, of course. He posted before and after pictures, detailing the hard work and dedication I had put in. The post went viral. It was picked up by a local news outlet, then a national fitness magazine. My story, the story of a woman who transformed her life through health and fitness, resonated with people. My inbox was flooded with messages from strangers telling me I was an inspiration. A well-known athletic wear company, Zephyr, reached out to me. They loved my story and my look. They wanted to feature me in their upcoming campaign about real fitness for real people. They offered me a contract that made my eyes water. It was more money than I had ever dreamed of, for doing something I had grown to love. When I told my family, I expected them to be proud. I was a success story. I was going to be a model. Instead, their reaction was icy. "A model?" my mother scoffed, as if I'd announced I was joining the circus. "Chloe, be realistic. That's a very fickle world. You should be focusing on your stable job." My job was in data entry, a soul-crushingly dull position I had taken because it was safe and paid the bills. "But this is an incredible opportunity," I argued, my voice shaking with a mixture of excitement and disbelief at their reaction. "They're paying me a lot of money." Amanda laughed, a short, sharp sound devoid of humor. "They're just using you, Chloe. It's a gimmick. The before and after girl. What happens when the novelty wears off? You'll be a joke." The cruelty of her words stole my breath. This wasn't concern, it was pure, unadulterated jealousy. My success wasn't part of their script. They had wanted me to be a smaller, more acceptable version of my old self. They had not wanted me to build a new life, a new identity, one that didn't revolve around them and their expectations. The power dynamic had shifted, and they couldn't stand it. The weeks leading up to the wedding were a cold war. I was busy with photo shoots, meetings, and learning the ropes of a new industry. I was happier and more confident than I had ever been. My family, on the other hand, treated my new career as a dirty little secret. If anyone asked, my mother would say I was dabbling in a little project. Amanda stopped speaking to me altogether unless it was to issue a wedding-related command. The final fitting for my bridesmaid dress was the breaking point. The original dress, ordered months ago, now hung off me like a sack. The seamstress, a kind woman named Elena, had to take it in by several inches. As I stood in front of the mirror, looking at the sleek, elegant column of silk that now fit me perfectly, I felt a surge of pride. Elena clapped her hands together. Magnifico! You look like a movie star. Amanda, who was there for her final fitting, stared at my reflection, her own face a thundercloud. It's too tight, she snapped. It's vulgar. You're drawing attention away from the bride. I turned to face her, my newfound confidence a shield. The dress fits, Amanda. That's the point of a fitting. You did this on purpose, she hissed, her voice low and venomous. You couldn't stand it being my day, so you had to go and do this. She gestured vaguely at my entire being. You've become so self-obsessed, so arrogant. I don't even know who you are anymore. I know who I am, I said, my voice calm and steady. For the first time in my life, I actually know who I am. The question is, do you? I walked out of the shop, leaving her fuming in a cloud of tulle and resentment. The wedding day arrived, a picture-perfect summer afternoon. The venue was a sprawling country estate, dripping with flowers and fairy lights. As a bridesmaid, I was there early, a whirlwind of hair, makeup, and pre-ceremony jitters. But my jitters weren't for Amanda, they were for myself. I had made a decision. I walked into the bridal suite where Amanda was having the final touches put on her makeup. My parents were there, fussing over her, their faces beaming with pride. They all stopped and stared when I entered. I was wearing my bridesmaid dress, I had my hair and makeup done, but I was also carrying a small suitcase. Chloe, what is that? My father demanded, his eyes narrowing at the case. I took a deep breath. I'm not going to be a bridesmaid, I said, my voice clear and firm. The room fell silent. Amanda's makeup artist froze, her brush hovering in midair. What did you say? Amanda whispered, her eyes wide with disbelief. I said, I'm not going to be your bridesmaid. I will be a guest at your wedding, because I love you and I want to see you get married. But I will not stand up there next to you and pretend to be someone I'm not, just to fit into your perfect picture. I looked at my parents. You wanted me to lose weight for this wedding. You paid for it. And I did it. But somewhere along the way, I found something more important than being thin. I found myself. And I will not let you, or anyone, make me feel ashamed of my success or my happiness. My mother started to cry, a mixture of anger and hurt. How could you do this to your sister? On her wedding day. Do what? I countered. Choose my own self-worth over your approval? You forced me into this, and now you can't handle the result. The result is that I am no longer the person who will shrink herself to make you comfortable. I turned back to Amanda. Your wedding is about you and Mark. It's not about me. My presence as a guest should be enough. My love for you should be enough. I placed a beautifully wrapped gift on the table. This is for you. I wish you all the happiness in the world. And with that, I walked out of the suite, leaving a stunned and silent tableau behind me. I went to the guest bathroom and changed out of the bridesmaid dress. I had brought another outfit, a chic, elegant jumpsuit that made me feel powerful and free. When I emerged, I was no longer a prop in Amanda's wedding. I was Chloe, a guest, a sister, a woman who had finally claimed her own story. The ceremony was beautiful. From my seat in the crowd, I watched Amanda marry the love of her life, and I felt a genuine sense of joy for her. During the reception, I mingled with the other guests. People I had known for years did double takes, complimenting me on how amazing I looked. But the compliments felt different this time. They weren't just about my weight, they were about the light in my eyes, the confidence in my posture. Then came the second, and most unexpected, plot twist of the day. A man I didn't recognize approached me, a warm smile on his face. Chloe? I'm David Chen, Mark's uncle. We shook hands. I have to say, he continued, I've been following your story. My company, Innovate Wellness, we're developing a new line of health products. We're looking for a brand ambassador, someone with an authentic story, someone who embodies real, sustainable change. Your journey is exactly what we're looking for. He handed me his card. He was the CEO. The offer he described, the potential partnership, was on a scale that dwarfed the Zephyr contract. It wasn't just about modeling, it was about product development, public speaking, a real, long-term career. It was everything I had ever dreamed of, falling into my lap in the middle of my sister's wedding reception. Later that evening, my father approached me, his face a mixture of emotions I couldn't decipher. David Chen spoke to me, he said, his voice quiet. He told me about his offer. That's incredible, Chloe. Yes, it is, I said simply. We were wrong, he finally admitted, the words seeming to cause him physical pain. We pushed you, and we were so focused on the wedding, on how things would look, that we didn't see what was really happening. We didn't see you. My mother joined us, her eyes red-rimmed. Your sister, she's devastated. Not just because you stepped down as a bridesmaid, but because she sees you now. She sees your success, and she feels left behind. It was a start. Not an apology, not really, but an acknowledgement. A crack in the wall of their denial. The rest of the evening was a blur of congratulations, both for the newlyweds and, surprisingly, for me. As I drove home that night, the moon high in the sky, I didn't feel anger or resentment. I felt a profound sense of peace. The wedding, the catalyst for so much pain and turmoil, had also been the catalyst for my liberation. My family's pressure had forced me onto a path I never would have chosen for myself. But in walking that path, I had discovered my own strength, my own worth, and a future brighter than I could have ever imagined. They couldn't handle my success because my success was a mirror, reflecting back at them their own shallow values and insecurities. They had wanted to shrink me, to make me fit into their world. But I had outgrown their world entirely. And as I looked at the CEO's business card sitting on my passenger seat, I knew, with absolute certainty, that I was never going back. My transformation was never about them. It was about me. And my success? That was just the beautiful, unexpected beginning of the rest of my life.